Chapter 14. Sometimes I told Gloria the story Miss Franny Block had just told me, or I imitated Otis tapping his pointy-toed boots and playing for all the animals, and that always made her laugh. And sometimes I made up a story, and Gloria Dump would listen to it all the way through from beginning to end. She told me she used to love to read stories, but she couldn't anymore because her eyes were so bad. "Can't you get some really strong glasses?" I asked her. "Child," she said, "they don't make glasses strong enough for these old eyes." One day, when the storytelling was done, I decided to tell Gloria that Otis was a criminal. I thought maybe I should tell an adult about it, and Gloria was the best adult I knew. "Gloria?" I said. "Mm-hmm," she said back. "You know Otis." "I don't know him, but I know what you tell me about him." "Well, he's a criminal. He's been in jail. Do you think I should be afraid of him?" "What for?" "I don't know, for doing bad things, I guess, for being in jail." "Child," Gloria said, "let me show you something." She got up out of her chair real slow and took hold of my arm. "Let's the two of us walk all the way back to the back of this yard." "Okay," I said. We walked, and Winn Dixie followed right behind us. It was a huge yard, and I had never been all the way back in it. When we got to a big old tree, we stopped. "Look at this tree," Gloria said. I looked up. There were bottles hanging from just about every branch. There were whiskey bottles and beer bottles and wine bottles, all tied on with string, and some of them were clanking against each other and making a spooky kind of noise. Me and Winn Dixie stood and stared at the tree, and the hair on top of his head rose up a little bit, and he growled deep in his throat. Gloria Dump pointed her cane at the tree. "What do you think about this tree?" I said, I don't know. Why are all those bottles on it?" "To keep the ghosts away," Gloria said. "What ghosts?" "The ghosts of all the things I done wrong." I looked at all the bottles on the tree. "You did that many things wrong?" I asked her. "Mm-hmm," said Gloria. "More than that." "But you're the nicest person I know," I told her. "Don't mean I haven't done bad things," she said. "There's whiskey bottles on there," I told her, "and beer bottles." "Child," said Gloria Dump, "I know that. I'm the one who put them there. I'm the one who drank what was in 'em." "My mama drank," I whispered. "I know," Gloria Dump said. "The preacher says that sometimes she didn't stop drinking." "Mm-hmm," said Gloria again. "That's the way it is for some folks. We get started and we can't get stopped." "Are you one of those people?" "Yes, ma'am, I am. But these days, I don't drink nothing stronger than coffee." "Did the whiskey and beer and wine, did they make you do the bad things that are all ghosts now?" "Some of them," said Gloria Dump. "Some of them I would have done anyway, with alcohol or without it, before I learned." "Learned what?" "Learned what is the most important thing." "What's that?" I asked her. "It's different for everyone," she said. "You find out on your own. But in the meantime, you just got to remember, you can't always judge people by the things they done. You got to judge them by what they are doing now. You judge Otis by the pretty music he plays and how kind he is to them animals, because that's all you know about him right now. All right?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "And them Dewberry boys, you try not to judge them too harsh either. All right?" "All right," I said. "All right then," said Gloria Dump, and she turned and started walking away. when Dixie nudged me with his wet nose and wagged his tail, and when he saw I wasn't going, he trotted after Gloria. I stayed where I was and studied the tree. I wondered if my mama, wherever she was, had a tree full of bottles. And I wondered if I was a ghost to her, the same way she sometimes seems like a ghost to me. Chapter 15. The Herman W. Block Memorial Library's air conditioning unit didn't work very good, and there was only one fan. And from the minute me and Winn Dixie got in the library, he hogged it all. He lay right in front of it and wagged his tail and let it blow his fur all around. Some of his fur was pretty loose and blew right off of him like a dandelion puff. I worried about him hogging the fan, and I worried about the fan blowing him bald. But Miss Franny said not to worry about either thing, that Winn Dixie could not that he could hog the fan if he wanted, and she had never in her life seen a dog made bald by a fan. Sometimes when Miss Franny was telling a story, she would have a fit. They were small fits, and they didn't last long. But what happened was she would forget what she was saying. She would just stop and start to shake like a little leaf. And when that happened, Winn Dixie would get up from the fan and sit right at Miss Franny Block's side. He would sit up tall, protecting her, with his ears standing straight up on his head like soldiers. And when Miss Franny stopped shaking and started talking again, Winn Dixie would lick her hand and lie down in front of the fan. Whenever Miss Franny had one of her fits, it reminded me of Winn Dixie in a thunderstorm. There were a lot of thunderstorms that summer. And I got real good at holding on to Winn Dixie whenever they came. I held on to him and comforted him and whispered to him and rocked him just the same way he tried to comfort Miss Franny when she had her fits. Only I held on to Winn Dixie for another reason, too. I held on to him tight so he wouldn't run away. It all made me think about Gloria Dump. I wondered who comforted her when she heard those bottles knocking together, those ghosts chattering about the things she had done wrong. I wanted to comfort Gloria Dump, and I decided that the best way to do that would be to read her a book. Read it to her loud enough to keep the ghosts away. And so I asked Miss Franny. I said, "Miss Franny, I've got a grown-up friend whose eyes are going on her, and I would like to read her a book out loud. Do you have any suggestions?" "Suggestions?" Miss Franny said. "Yes, ma'am, I have suggestions. Of course I have suggestions. How about Gone with the Wind?" "What's that about?" I asked her. "Why," said Miss Franny, "it's a wonderful story about the Civil War." "The Civil War?" I said. "Do not tell me that you have never heard of the Civil War." Miss Franny Block looked like she was going to faint. She waved her hands in front of her face. "I know about the Civil War," I told her. "That was the war between the South and the North over slavery." "Slavery, yes. And said Miss Franny, it was also about states' rights and money. It was a terrible war. My great-grandfather fought in that war. He was just a boy." "Your great-grandfather?" "Yes, ma'am. Litmus W. Block. Now there's a story." Winn Dixie yawned real big and lay down on her side. With a thump and a sigh, I swear he knew that phrase, "Now there's a story." And he knew it meant we weren't going anywhere real soon. "Go ahead and tell it to me, Miss Franny," I said, and I sat down cross-legged next to Winn Dixie. I pushed him and tried to get him to share the fan, but he pretended he was asleep, and he wouldn't move. I was all settled in and ready for a good story when the door banged and pinch-faced Amanda Wilkinson came in. When Dixie sat up and stared at her, he tried out a smile on her, But she didn't smile back, and so he lay back down. I'm ready for another book, Amanda said, slamming her book down on Miss Franny's desk. Well, said Miss Franny, maybe you wouldn't mind waiting. I'm telling India Opal a story about my great-grandfather. You are, of course, more than welcome to listen. It will be just 1 minute. Amanda sighed a real big dramatic sigh and stared past me. She pretended like she wasn't interested, but she was, I could tell. Come sit over here, said Miss Franny. I'll stand, thank you, said Amanda. Suit yourself, Miss Franny shrugged. Now where was I? Oh yes, Litmus. Litmus W. Block.